The Health Protection Regulations 2021 Regulations 2020 from the 29th of March 2021. A stepped approach to relaxation of pandemic-related restrictions in England was set out by the Cabinet Office in a document referred to as a roadmap, published on the 22nd of February 2021. These regulations partially enact those intentions and replace almost all of the existing Health Protection Regulations 2020 which had been in force since the 2nd of December 2020. The exceptions being the measures necessary to allow prosecutions of offences under the replaced regulations. The regulations were made on the 22nd of March 2021 by the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Matt Hancock, using emergency powers under the Public Health Act 1984 to enact the regulations without prior parliamentary consideration, subject to retrospective approval by resolution of each House of Parliament within 28 days. The regulations enter into force on the 29th of March 2021 and expire at the end of the 30th of June 2021. The scheme of the regulations is to define 3 layers of personal and business restrictions, called steps. Step 1 is the most restrictive, and as of the 29th of March 2021 all of England has been placed into the Step 1 area. There are no places which are currently subject to the lesser Step 2 and 3 restrictions. But the rules are drafted so that specific regions can easily be moved into and out of the various step areas by simple amendments to the regulations, as the situation demands. The restrictions on leaving the UK, and the requirement if doing so to carry a travel declaration form, apply to the whole of England regardless of step area. In all step areas, gatherings are restricted by size, and unless one of the exceptions applies, the only permitted gatherings are those shown in the table. Children are included in the counts, though certain exceptions, see below, allow for larger gatherings with young children. Current not yet in effect *, see also the first 2 exceptions in the table below. These allow, alternatively, any number of people from 1 or 2 households. Certain larger gatherings are permitted if one of the following exceptions applies. The list is exhaustive, in the sense that no other reasons may be used to justify contravening the general restrictions on gatherings. In some cases the exception applies only where it is reasonably necessary. In other words, where the purpose of the gathering cannot reasonably be achieved in some other way. Except where stated, the exceptions apply to both indoor and outdoor gatherings. NA means that no specific exception is provided, but the activity is normally permitted under the general restrictions on gatherings for that particular step. Current not yet in effect some of the exceptions allow individuals to attend a larger than normal gathering provided that they do so either alone or as part of a smaller qualifying group. The definition depending on the step as in the table below. During the gathering, the person may not move between qualifying groups, nor mingle with anyone outside their group. The concept of linked households is brought forward from previous regulations. 2 households that are linked under these regulations can generally meet as if they were one household. First and second households may link if all the adults in both households agree. The first household must comprise. There are no limits on the second household, which may include any number of adults and children. A household may be linked with only one other household at a time. Linked households may be changed, if all agree, subject to a minimum 10-day waiting period counted from the last date on which any member of the newly linked households participated in a gathering that was allowed only by virtue of a previous household link. The concept of linked childcare households is also brought forward from previous regulations. It is separate from linked households. A household with at least one child aged 13 or under can link with another household who will be providing informal childcare. Only one linked childcare household is permitted at any one time, and all adults in both households have to agree. Linked childcare households may be changed, if all agree, subject to a minimum 10-day waiting period counted from the last date on which any member of the newly linked households participated in a gathering that was allowed only by virtue of a previous childcare household link. It is an offence punishable by a fine or a fixed penalty of £10,000 to hold an unlawful gathering of more than 30 people. This applies the offence does not extend to someone whose only involvement was to attend. That is subject to a lesser penalty, the amount of which depends on the size of the gathering and its location. For the first time, the regulations explicitly attempt to prevent individuals from leaving the United Kingdom. And these apply throughout England regardless of step area. Exceptions apply to individuals